gonna look back, cause damn, I was built to last. You move slow and I move fast, and that's facts. Only I can make a change, slowly take a step today. I will never be the same, cause that's what it takes.
Hello everyone and welcome to Talking Takeover. Brand new show from me and Astrid as we go back in the Wayback Machine. Not too far back, but tonight we're not talking necessarily about a takeover tonight, are we?
No, and it feels weird.
So, to talk about NXT TakeOver, you have to go back to the beginning. And for most of us that are outside of Astrid's area, NXT as a television program began with the launch of the WWE Network in February of 2014. Ironically, 10 years ago. Building to WrestleMania 30 in New Orleans, WWE decided to go big and launch the WWE Network. It was a big swing, and I think it worked. For a long time, I think it worked, and I think that they decided to make more money doing something different. But I don't think I'd ever consider the WWE Network a failure. What about you?
Yeah, I really did. I really liked it because I felt like it was nice to have everything in one place. It's like I can watch the pay-per-views here, I can watch NXT here, I can watch all catalog in just one place, and it was so convenient to watch it there. And it was so nice. I love being able to look back and see everything that was there at that moment. Even I signed up so I can get it on launch day. And I remember how busy it was that I could barely log in at first. And I was able to log in. I was like, oh, this is so cool. I can watch everything I want in just one place. For me, though, I thought at first that for the future, they will end up adding their live shows on the WWE Network, like a Raw SmackDown type of thing on the network itself. And have it be kind of like that streaming platform for everything, not only on demand stuff, but the live, weekly showings. So basically what we're getting for next year is what I expected the network to be at that time, years later. But still, it's I love being able to watch any kind of old stuff and be able to skip the chapters that we do on YouTube kind of thing of skipping to that sort of match you want to watch when you don't want to watch the whole pay-per-view. And it's I know it wasn't, at first, it wasn't the best because obviously it's the first time they do something like this. So you expect it to be kind of buggy, to put it like that. But I feel like they did such a great progress with it. And I really love the way that it came up about, to put it like that. I was a little bummed when they changed it to Peacock. And I was like, dang it, but it was fine here. Why would you do that? But, money's money. So we can't blame them for that.
If we want them to do less Saudi shows, they have to make money somewhere else. If we don't want them to do Saudi show, we have to let them get their bag. As our wonderful friend Lauren Goodnight says, get that bag where you can. And
yes,
right, that was, if we don't want to pay $40 for the WWE Network every month, we had to make some kind of a concession.
Mm-hmm.
One of the things that happened with the launch of the WWE Network Live, Melball, thank you for joining us. We greatly appreciate it. One of the things I thought was great with the WWE Network is, like I said, it gave us, those outside of Florida, a chance to see the NXT product. Because NXT started as the game show. We all remember the game show. It was bad. Nobody likes it. There's some good things that happened about it, and there's some things that came of it that were good.
Mm-hmm.
But I think a lot of us forget that it then stopped being a game show, and it was a long-term NXT.
Mm-hmm.
This is after it took over for Florida Championship Wrestling, which was the local developmental place where all of the NXT talent was working out of at the time.
Mm-hmm.
However, that TV show never made it outside of Florida or the surrounding area. It may have made it to Atlanta and some other places down south, but it never made it up here to me. But I was hearing about Bray Wyatt, and I was hearing about this Seth Rollins, and I was hearing about this Big E Langston and him wanting 5. And I was hearing about all these fun and interesting things going on in NXT, but I couldn't see any of it.
Yep.
I got the network, and the first thing I did was find this NXT and go back as far as I could and start watching stuff. The first live programming on NXT live and, you know, not live to tape, but just live, was NXT Arrival. And Triple H goes out, Papa H himself, because this was his baby at the time. And he goes out and tells us this.
NXT is the next generation, and the next generation has arrived.
Yes, he, as always with a Triple H thing, he welcomes us to the show himself, Papa H, shaven, no beard, no nothing, Papa H. And we're welcome to NXT. We get the old NXT theme song that I still to this day miss, that I still wish they would go back to.
Yeah.
The roar of the crowd. What's it called? I think it's the stomp. I think it's
yeah.
the crowd, isn't it?
Yeah. Plus, being in the audience, though, when that happened, we would stomp on the bleachers when the stomping happened. So every time the song played, even with the commercials, you could hear the crowd going bam, 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 the whole time on the bleachers. So it's always one of those things like with this theme song you don't get now. So it's like the little things that you end up missing because until like they're gone. I was like, dang it, I missed it. Now when I heard it, I literally went with it. And I started stomping and clapping to it because I'm so used to doing it there.
We're also welcome to Full Sail University for the first time as a massive nationwide audience. I miss it. I miss Full Sail. I don't love the CWC. Full Sail was a place and a being all to its own. And we'll talk about this in later talking takeovers, where Full Sail becomes its own special character in certain matches where we get outside vignettes and we get things. Because Full Sail University is a legitimate, active university, and students were there. But you had sets for student movies and student productions, and they would use those sets as backlots for some of these brawls and things like that. Like the French Bistro set is the one I always remember. They have this little like French Bistro set.
Yeah.
And one of the He Shall Not Be Names taking on Adam Cole outside in the French Bistro towards the end of takeovers.
Mm-hmm.
There are some great matches that take place outdoors or brawls that take place outdoors. But we hear a sound and I'm like, who is this? And out comes a young baby face with, you know, a little bit of facial hair, Sami Zayn. But not to the song, the Let's Go remix that we know and love from Sami Zayn. Even I don't remember this song.
Yeah, it took me a bit to recognize it.
But Sami Zayn is engulfed in a massive feud with We the Peoples. Yes, back to the We the People era with Jack Swagger and Zeb Coulter and Cesaro. Cesaro, his opponent. The year before, they had a best 2 out of 3 falls match, which was voted as NXT's match of the year the previous time they had wrestled. We're also welcome to our announce crew for the night, which is Tom Phillips, Byron Saxton, and William Regal. The one thing I want fans of this show to remember and keep track of is the ever-changing landscape of this commentary team, because this thing will evolve over the course of the next few takeovers.
Yeah, that's very true. No, and this is for me. I didn't think about it at first. At first, I didn't recognize Sami's theme song. I was like, I just wanted to go, let's go. And I'm like, wait, that is not happening in this one. It took me a bit. And I was like, this is where my crush on Sami started. Now I remember. But no, this was nice to see it. It feels like seeing like a baby Sami, like the hair, the facial hair, and just the regular like, short hair. I was like, but I always love this gear, particularly though with him with the flags of where he's wrestled at. So it's my favorite gear of his. So to see it back, I was like, I miss this gear though. Yeah.
I'd love to see him bring this gear back one night because he can add so many new places now that they've gone to different places. Especially being able to put that Saudi thing on, not because I'm obsessed with the Saudi thing. I could honestly, I want them to get rid of the Saudi deal. But for somebody like Sami, for being who he is, being of Syrian descent, being, living in that part of the world, performing in Saudi Arabia is a big deal for him. So to finally be able to add that flag to that gear of all the places he's wrestled, I think would be interesting. And I think it would be nice if maybe on his last match in WWE or something like that, maybe he trots out that gear again one more time. This is a fantastic match. I mean, how is it not going to be a fantastic match? It's Cesaro. It's Cesaro versus Sami Zayn.
Was it Antonio Cesaro at that time, or was it just Cesaro?
It's just Cesaro. He's on the main roster at this point, so he's down to just Cesaro.
Yeah, I remember Antonio Cesaro.
We'll see some ever-changing names also over the course of this show, because we'll tell you names and we'll add things to it. You'll be like, no, that's not their name. No, it used to be.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I do want to say that it's fantastic that this match goes about 20 minutes. I feel like this match goes about 20 minutes. I'm just using the timer on the WWE network.
Yeah, it feels like closer to 30 almost. Yeah.
It starts about the 4-minute mark of the show and it goes to about the 27-minute mark of the show. So it's a good 20-minute match. If you hadn't gone back and watched some of their other matches, this feels out of place. It feels weird. Because you're like, Cesaro's been scouting that. And we're like, from what? Or he pulled that out last match. Well, that's new to me because that spot, I still miss that spot too, by the way. The spot of Sami on the outside of the ring, running and diving through the first and second turnbuckle spot.
No lie, that was one of my notes. I call it the turnbuckle DDT, so that's why I put turnbuckle DDT Cesaro uppercut, because I miss him doing that. When I saw him doing it, I was like, shoot, how long was it? When what was the last time he actually did this? I don't remember at this point, but I miss it.
No. Thank you, our local establishment. We greatly appreciate you guys stopping by and wishing us luck. Like I said, there's not much to talk about. This is a great match. It does everything it's supposed to do. Sami loses like he should. And at the end of it, Cesaro, he tries to get the respect from Cesaro, and it takes a bit. It takes a little bit, but he does give him the respect that he deserves at the end.
Yep.
He goes ahead and he gives him the hug, and Cesaro at this point will then go back up to the main roster. And something else I want to talk about here, and this is something we're going to continuously do over the next rest of this series, Talking Takeover. We're going to talk about where these people are now. Sami Zayn is very easy. He's a prominent member of the Raw roster. He's, I would say, in the main event scene. I know some people think that WWE doesn't consider Sami a main eventer, but I do. I think that WWE seriously considers him a main eventer. This time last year, he challenged Roman Reigns in Montreal, Quebec, Canada, in his home city for the WWE champion, the undisputed WWE championship. So I think it's hard not to think of Sami as a main eventer. Cesaro is a hard one. Cesaro is currently a member of the AEW roster, performing mostly back and forth between AEW Dynamite and Ring of Honor. He was the ROH champion for a while until he lost the title to Eddie Kingston. And it feels like now that they've done that, there's nothing left for him. It seems like, based on what I've seen, that Cesaro and the Blackpool Combat Club are engulfed in a feud with Mexican CMLL wrestlers.
Yeah, it just feels like kind of like the BCC kind of being like gatekeepers, and I don't want to say forbidden door, but that's what it feels like. Of like anytime somebody comes in, and it's like, we're gonna go fight our territory here in AEW. So it just kind of feels like that sort of vibe right now. I just think it might lead to something a little bit bigger later on, and just like this is just the start of it. Hence why there's not much to it right now. The only difference is like it feels weird because calling Claudio Castagnoli instead of Cesaro, because I'm so used to Cesaro, but it takes some used to going back to that. But I feel like he's doing well for himself, because at least he's consistent on a weekly basis in AEW programming, whether it's Dynamite or Collision. He's still on TV on a weekly basis, and I feel like that's something you can't really compare to a lot of people. That there's some people that we don't see very often, versus he's there on a weekly basis. So gotta show that up too.
Yeah. We move on. I'm going to skip a lot of the showing off of people in the crowd, because WWE packed this crowd with a lot of visible names. The governor of Florida at one point. The one that breaks my heart is, at one point we see Pat Patterson and Dusty Rhodes at ringside, and that's the one that breaks my heart. Seeing those two lovely men sitting ringside, because also they're so prominent in that area. Dusty being working out of Atlanta with WCW for a long time, and also running NXT in the early days of NXT. He was the general manager for most of the beginning of NXT. Not that we get to see it here, because at this point we have John Bradshaw Layfield as our general manager on NXT. And then we're treated to CJ Parker, WWE's Moonchild extraordinaire. For those that don't understand who CJ Parker was, he wanted to save the planet. He was Daniel Bryan before Daniel Bryan.
Oof, yeah.
He was a vegan type of guy. He had that hippie free spirit. He was more of the hippie version of what Daniel Bryan will end up being later on. But you'll best know him as his work as Juice Robinson. So we'll just leave that out there. He goes ahead and takes on one of my favorite people from the early days of NXT. He didn't get hyped. He stayed hyped. And I know people won't believe me with this. This dude was over. Yeah. This dude was severely over with this crowd. Maybe not this night, but in general, this Full Sail crowd really enjoyed Mojo Rawley. There are multiple signs in the crowd. Probably the only times we'll ever see multiple signs for Mojo Rawley in anything.
Yeah.
And
yeah, it's one of those with the crowd. Yeah, I was gonna say it happens a lot with the crowd on this one. The especially during the theme song when you could hear him yell it out like I stay hyped. A lot of people definitely yell it out, especially when he does his finisher and people know it's coming. They're still yelling it out with him too. And it's like one of those things like I wish you would have seen that in the main roster because it didn't translate that way. And I think that's what we see more than anything, probably as we go over the NXT takeovers. It's like the fact that with the Full Sail, we have such a small crowd to the point that you can see the characters go over here in the small crowd. So when they go to the main roster, it doesn't translate very well and ends up being like with character changes and things like that. But with this one, I kept thinking as I was watching it, I kept messaging Mel and I'm like, this is CJ Parker that I'm watching. Who the hell is Juice Robinson compared to this guy? Like this, I can't believe they're the same person. Like it doesn't seem like it. And I remember like one of those people, like whenever he used to do the peace sign, we all did it with him in the crowd, him with the signs every time he came out later on, more towards the end of his run. And I was like, comparing both people, it doesn't feel like they're the same person at all. Like if you were to tell me they're the same person, I wouldn't believe you. Obviously, I know because I've seen it happen, but it's like it doesn't seem like it is the same person now. And then with Mojo, yeah, just thinking about how energetic he was, I feel like he just reminds me of that way, like kind of like a Joe Henry, like the crowd was really into him when he came out, and you don't see that very often.
Yeah, he wins a relatively quick match here. There's not much to it to talk about.
Yeah.
Mojo Rawley is now working the indie scene a little bit and not doing a whole much in the world of professional wrestling. Juice Robinson, as we all know, is signed to the AEW roster. I believe he's still part of New Japan. I don't think he's unsigned to New Japan. I think he's still working with them. But he's part of Bullet Club Gold with my favorite person, Jay White. And you know, he's been in Ring of Honor. He's been in New Japan. He had a fantastic run in New Japan, to be honest with you. It revitalized his career. His run in Ring of Honor as part of a New Japan roster was really good as well. I think Juice is a fantastic talent who I think I'd love to see get another opportunity. In this moment where we're talking about Juice Robinson and Mojo Rawley, we should also note, I believe we heard her earlier, but this is the first time that I think I see her on this broadcast. Eden Styles is our ring announcer for this broadcast. Yeah. For those that don't remember, Eden Styles is now Brandy Rhodes.
Mm-hmm.
She's not good.
This just reminds you of the era that they were at the moment. They were building up the girls, so a lot of them ended up being ring announcers. Like I think at one point, I don't know if it was Alexa Bliss that was a ring announcer for a little bit, and Obviously, she was one of them, and I forgot who other else, but there was a couple girls here and there that would kind of switch up and do it before they ended up. Yeah, JoJo was for a while, but it's just interesting to see like the girls that they found that they could kind of see how they were doing that, and they just put them to do it. And I just when I saw her as Mojo's doing his entrance, I believe is when we see her, and I thought she should like that feels so weird to see her right there and then because she's just eating styles, probably just getting to know Cody at that moment, so she's not even Rhodes yet.
She's not even a Rhodes yet. We then get a backstage promo. We get a backstage segment where we see Emma, which leads to a video package for Emma. And yes, it's not the evolution of Emma. It's not the Emma that we'll see later on the main roster. This is weird dancing, has no idea what the fuck she's doing, Emma.
I think the most fun part of this is like I went to a live show with my dad, and then when she came up with the bubbles, I'm legit trying to go ahead. You have to do it. You have to. And to like see the whole crowd doing it with her. And I love the part where like when she tries to get in the ring, and I know in the promo I forgot what she calls it, but then they're like, oh, she's like, no, it's called being graceful. And they like her trying to get in the ring, people will cheer for her when she got in the ring. But it was just like, again, thinking of her now versus Tenille, they don't look the same at all. So it's like, if you were to tell me again, who is this, I would not say it was Emma. But again, she was somebody that was really fun to watch, and I really enjoyed watching her while I was there. It's like I couldn't help but be one of the people dancing in the audience.
Yeah. We then get the entrance of the Ascension. Oh, the Ascension. I'm going to say something, and I want you to tell me what you think of this statement, because it might be a hot take, it might not be. The biggest failure from NXT to the main roster was the transition of the Ascension.
I think there was somebody else that I was thinking of, aside from them, that it was like, it felt like one of the biggest, because again, this is one of the teams that I really enjoyed watching there. Like their entrance alone is so cool, and I love seeing that entrance every single time. Plus, they were nice to me. They told me my name was pretty, so I can't, I can't say anything negative about them. But this was one of the groups that it happened with Sanity too. That's another one that happened to me as well. But you keep thinking again, this is going to translate very well, because it's like, I don't want to call them kind of like an Undertaker-ish kind of character, but they feel different in that sort of way, if you want to say it like that. And thinking back about them, I was like, oh, this is cool. They're different. They look different. And I love their finisher too. Like the kind of like the high-low kind of finisher they do. And I was like, they look like badasses. They look so freaking cool. I was like, what the heck happened? I have no idea. I can't even explain it. But it's one of those. Oh, Sami Callihan was the other one I was thinking of, Solomon Crow, because it just, that was another one to the list. But yeah, this was one of those that I was like, dang it, I was excited for them to like join the main roster and do like exactly like their entrance and how cool it looked in the bigger like spaces. And then nothing.
The biggest problem with the Ascension is they got saddled with this legend killer gimmick right out of the gate, and it just never went anywhere, because all they did is try and mostly fail to beat up legends. And it was a weird thing to do. And it feels even more weird as we sit here and we talk about this, as they have an open challenge for their NXT Tag Team Champions, as I believe they were 200 and some odd days as champion at this point. And they've gone through most of the tag teams in this roster. Out comes Too Cool in 2014.
Who asked for this?
You know what? The crowd popped big for it, and the live crowd popped big. I remember being super excited seeing it back then.
And watching it now, I'm like...
rest in peace, Brian Christopher, obviously. He's no longer with us. But the match isn't that bad. It's a pretty decent match. The Ascension gets over their thing. Too Cool doesn't really get in their way. And I think that's impressive. It's important to note. They booked the legends here in the right way to make them feel like they were a hard task to overcome, even for these dominant big guys like the Ascension. But I like the idea that they made them feel like there was a chance that Too Cool could win this match on multiple occasions. But the Fall of Man is one of the... I know Red Dragon did it, and I know it was a copycat move, but to a me who hadn't really dived into a lot of Ring of Honor yet, that was cool to me. Seeing the fall of man to me, because I hadn't yet got involved in Ring of Honor, was really cool to me. Connor and Victor. By the way, this is the second version of the Ascension. There is an earlier version of this tag team that we don't talk about. I also think it's funny that the team that they had dethroned for the tag team championships, do you remember who they talked about during commentary that they dethroned for the tag team titles? Because I do remember.
No, I didn't take a note of that one. Who was it?
Corey Graves and Adrian Neville.
Yeah, I remember now.
The tag team of Corey Graves and Adrian Neville. Like, one of the reasons why I want to do this show is because there are so many weird things that happen in NXT. And when we do the next episode, we have an even better one with Kalisto's tag team partner in the next takeover is, oh my God, I forgot how bad it was. Because he comes out with the Lucha Dragons music, and I'm like, oh, it's going to be this guy. I'll give you a hint, it's not. I'll give you a hint. You'll never realize who it is until I tell you next time who his tag team partner is, unless you look it up. But this match is good. I really enjoy this match. I always loved the Ascension. I thought they were going to be a big deal. I was surprised when they weren't. And I'm more surprised because they seem to be the type of guys that Vince would like. Connor is a big, massive dude that a guy Vince would have liked. Victor seems like a guy right out of a Vince playbook. He's got this kind of evil-y face, especially with the facial hair and the long black hair. Like, he has this evil look to him. And when you add the makeup that they put on for themselves, it worked. Their gimmick worked. Their thing worked. And then all of a sudden, they just didn't. And I'll go on record as saying I think, until I see something different later, that these were the most can't-miss thing from NXT that missed.
Yeah, I think that's definitely at the top of the list for now.
To continue talking about the where are they nows, Victor has gone through a variety of things on the independent circuit in 2020, and he basically doesn't wrestle anymore right now. They were part of the DLC pack in WWE 2K15. They were also in the game in 16, 17, 18, and 19. But that's basically the end of it for Victor. He didn't do a whole lot after this. Connor, on the other hand, Con is literally named Big Con right now. And he is working with what used to be Violent by Design, or The Design, and is now, it's no longer The Design. It's just... Yeah.
It's not even The Design, to be honest, anymore. I was there at the tapings where he returned now as basically, but not The Design anymore. And they're just booking him kind of like being that like bigger guy, kind of badass thing that you expect him to do because of his size. So there's not much to it right now because that's his return, and either aired last week or probably this week based on the taping order. So sorry if I spoiled it for anybody, but yeah, he comes back out.
The promo aired last week of him talking to, I remember seeing it online. There's a promo of him talking to, what's his name? Not Jake something, the other guy in Jake something's tag team. I used to like him when I watched Impact all the time.
That one.
The guy who runs about The Design. What's his name?
Oh, sure, you're making me blank out. But I can tell you at least, like, I know he was part of it, and then they basically took them off TV for a little bit. He was with Alan Angels in that group. There you go. That Barry has it. Cody Deaner.
There we go. Cody Deaner.
Yeah, so it was all three of them, but so far they just I think I saw Alan Angels maybe once in the tapings, and then Cody Deaner's maybe once or twice, and then Con just returned literally now. So it's probably airing this week or next week, but.
Brian's also like, hello,
Yes.
I jumped in just the right time.
Yes, you did. But yeah, there's nothing to it right now. I think they're just building him in that sort of way. But we'll just see what kind of storyline they give him, because I did tapings that I went to, he hadn't done much yet. But, I know in the next couple of weeks they'll build him up to continue that.
As we continue on the show, we are now graced by the presence of the Queendom, shall we say. Stephanie McMahon Helmsley comes out to the ring And she goes ahead and talks about how great it is to be here. She talks about how excited she is. And she introduces the women for the women's championship match. Or, as it was then called, because we're still in this previous era, the NXT Divas Championship.
Yeah.
Astrid, another hot take. I much prefer this title to the women's championship we have now. I really liked the little different NXT Divas Championship with the purple with the pink diamonds in there.
Okay.
I thought this was a very classy version of, because we all know the Divas Championship was awful. The butterfly belt is widely considered to be one of the worst in WWE history, or worst in any title history. But I think that this Divas Championship was actually a cool design. AEW's Women's Championship originally looked a lot like the Divas Championship to my mind.
Mm-hmm.
But Stephanie does talk for a while. And then, yes, we are graced to the ring by the shriek that used to make my heart melt of Paige. Yes, itty bitty Paige, tiny Paige, raven-haired tiny Paige, all of what, 100 pounds soaking wet. Looked like she might have been a size 1 at this point. Not that there's anything wrong with the fact that she's bigger now, but like, it's remarkable how tiny she was back then.
I mean, she looks like a baby.
She does,
like
and
that.
she is. At this point, she is incredibly young.
Mm-hmm.
She reminds me of Sheamus a lot in this, as I called them. They were like, as I called them, the mayonnaise people. And by the way, I am one of the mayonnaise people. But the people who don't tan, those, it's not just white. Like, Emma's white, but she tans. Paige is just pale.
Yeah.
But it was perfect distinction with the red lips and the black hair and the purple gear. It all worked well for her. Everything fit in well. But yeah, Paige versus Emma. The first time we're seeing women's wrestling on NXT on the network. What are your thoughts of this match?
First, I kept thinking when I saw Stephanie, I thought it reminds me of when she was there in commentary for the first Women's Rumble. I was like, we don't see her often, but she's there for those kind of key moments. To see, like, it also reminds me when she helped with the debut of Sasha, Charlotte, and Becky in the main roster. It seems like, so we don't see her often, but when you see her, she makes a presence now in those type of moments that are special.
When she invented women's wrestling, when she brought Sasha, Bailey, and when she brought Sasha, Becky, and Charlotte up there. No, that's when WWE considers that she invented women's wrestling.
Yeah, but no, this particular I want to say this match, it means a lot to me in the sense of, like, I am the type of girl, if you can see me, I'm not blonde, I don't have blue or green eyes, I'm not white or anything like that. So growing up and watching the women, that's a lot of the women that I saw, and I couldn't see myself in any of them. And seeing not only somebody like Emma, who was very goofy, I really like that, and her character. It's not often they see a girl being that kind of goofy. I think the closest one would be kind of like Maria in a way. But obviously they're in different aspects of it, to put it like that. But thinking of Paige, though, Paige meant a lot to me, especially at that time, because this is the first time that I see a girl with like black hair, her dark makeup, and I was like, look, I'm emo. She looks emo just like me. And it's like, to see that girl and like her music and everything, it just, I felt like I could identify with her. And that's the first time I identified with one of the girls that was wrestling on like a WWE ever, between her and AJ Lee around that time as well. So this meant a lot to me, just watching her kind of like grow up in a way. It's like, I feel like I grew up at the same time as she did, if you think about it that way, because we're similar in age too. So yeah, thinking about like watching her be this, and it's like, I keep hoping that I can't wait until she goes to the main roster and people see her and then people want to be like her in that aspect. And she's such a role model for other young ladies, and thinking of the way she is, and having the girls see themselves in her the way I see myself in her. And ironically, I met her when she was champion around the time too. So I definitely held that championship that everybody was talking about. You know why? But yes, I held that championship on my shoulders when I met her. But no, we're not definitely get into that. But this definitely meant a lot to me, because it's the first time I see like the girls, and I'm like, these are the type of girls that I feel like I got attached to. I got a connection to for the first time. And that's why I really enjoyed NXT a lot more than the main roster. And to see them like having the match, and I really enjoy the match just altogether. Thinking of like the moments of like Emma goes in and she's getting a little bit more aggressive because she notices how she has to kind of change her game plan here with Paige. She's like, she can't be what she usually does. And when she goes in on the way with, like, we call it like the Emma sandwich and the Emma lock. The Emma lock is one of my favorite moves ever. I wish somebody would do it now because I love how she did it. And like they call it the dilemma with the tarantula that she had by the ropes as well. There's something that we don't see often either. So thinking of that, but also to end the match with like Paige's like submission, because I think that was the first time they did it, because they were like so amazed by her strength as she's doing this, like basically standing on, not standing, but like on her knees almost, but having somebody like by their torso the way she did. It looked incredible, like visually. And to see a lady do something like that, I feel like she looked like a badass. And I really enjoy this match so much. So like thinking of like, I was like, which match is this one? Because I wish it would have been the first one to crown the NXT Women's Champion. Because I feel like that would have been a great way to like debut it on the network. But we already have, I believe it was 218 days with Paige as champion when this was happening. So it's one of those moments that I wish it would have been earlier to see it. But again, I feel like these two killed it with this match.
I'm just going to throw this up on the screen. This is the Paige turner. And it is, yeah, this is because the Rampage is the sweep. Do I have
this is the Paige turner is the one she like swoops you in a way. So this is the PTO is what they call it, kind of way Paige's tap out or something like that. That's what they called it.
Okay. This is just a phenomenal, interesting submission hold, as you were saying. Very different, not the same type of thing that you would see everywhere else. In immense pain, Emma is obviously in at this moment. Just a fantastic just showing here for Paige and for Emma both in this match. This is the moment where Emma gives up. Paige is... I have a special spot for Paige. I adored Paige during her run. I thought Paige was so different from everything else we've ever had. I've lived through and I watched Victoria, but there's a distinct difference with Victoria and with Paige. Like Victoria was like the anti-diva to an extent, but Paige was this different. She took what Victoria did and went to another level. She was so anti what WWE looked for. Like you said, she's wrestling blonde hair, blue eyes Emma here. She'll get infused with Charlotte. She'll get infused with AJ Lee. Like she's the epitome of I'm different than what you used to. And she was so good in the ring that it just made everything stand out. And so I was just very happy to see her get this big win here. I was always a big fan of Paige. I wish Emma, had some better luck in WWE than she did. We see Paige give her a big hug after the match to give her congratulations. I believe this is one of Emma's last times on the NXT roster for a little while. I know she'll come back down, but I believe this is where Emma goes back to the main roster and stays there for a while. Paige has still got a little bit of time left before she heads up there. But I don't think we see Paige again on... Actually, now that I think about it, I think by the time Takeover comes around again, Paige is gone.
I think maybe-ish, because I remember that at that time, because her ring was so, I don't want to say powerful, but in that type of way, because it was the longest reign, and obviously being the first champion too already. Go ahead. I figured out what happens now, so go ahead. Yeah, they didn't want her to lose the championship in just a regular match, and that speaks volumes to me at that time, especially because she's the first champion, the first NXT like women's champion, to put it like that. So they don't want her to lose in a regular match. So it's like the best thing they could do is like, well, you're in the main roster. This is why I make fun of with the Solo Sikoa thing later on that we get years later, because I believe it was JBL that tells her, it's like, oh, you're in the main roster now. If you're Divas champion, you can be NXT Women's champion at the same time. It's like you kind of had to like kind of pick and choose kind of thing, and she like, and she gives the NXT Women's Championship at that moment. So it's interesting to think about, like, they decided like it was best to like have her give it up than to have her have in a match and then have her lose, because she's already in the main roster. It's gonna make her look bad in the main roster because she's losing the championship in this way, and they rather her relinquish it in that aspect. So it just speaks about her as well as a character, because you don't want her. It's like kind of like an Oscar. You don't want her to lose in a regular match in a pinfall submission or anything like that. So I thought that was interesting as well. And I liked it, like, before the match in itself, in her video package, even she mentions also about the looks. She said, I'm not tan, I'm not light, I don't have her hair with like different colors or anything like that. Like, I'm basically me. And I like how before this happens, they actually show us Charlotte and Rick in the audience. And I was like, I like how we go from Paige, who's the current one, to like the next one that's happening afterwards. But I also like in commentary how they bring up things like they brought up Emma being in the tournament beforehand for the women's championship, and they said, oh, she beat up Natalia and she beat Alicia Fox to be basically in the finals for the tournament with Paige. So like things like that, I feel like it adds to it of like, look at the names that at the time that Emma was defeating versus the the days that Paige has as champion. So I like how they delivered in this match, even with the commentary.
Yeah, and what I was going to say is shortly after this, at WrestleMania 30, AJ Lee will go through the gauntlet that Vicky Guerrero sets up in front of her, and she'll retain her Divas Championship. And the next night is Paige's debut, where she debuts and wins the NXT Divas Championship from AJ Lee, which causes it. It's at this point that we do see Pat Patterson in, we get a video package. We get a backstage shot of Adrian Neville doing push-ups to then a video segment. And I really don't like this backstage thing video segment, but they had to do the video segments because you're talking to a brand new audience who has no idea who these people are. We then get a moment that there is so much wrong with this next moment. I don't even know where to start. We get Xavier Woods coming out from the main roster to Brodus Clay's music, because at this point he was using the "Somebody Call Your Mama" music that Brodus Clay was using because he was Brodus's friend. That's
been recycled way too many times.
Yes, it was the third time in professional wrestling on television that this music had been used. Ernest the Cat Miller used it in WCW, then Brodus Clay, and then Xavier Woods. And then out comes his opponent, Tyler Breeze, to not, oh my God, it's Tyler. Yeah. Generic Tyler Breeze music that I don't ever remember, which made it even worse. But he comes out, and he's got the basis for what will become the Prince Pretty character going forward. It's not quite Prince Pretty, but it's kind of sort of Prince Pretty. He's got the boots. They've got the whole thing of shooting him from his feet all the way up his body, and he's got the camera phone. But it's not quite the whole Tyler Breeze that we all remember from NXT. Yeah. And they're about to have a match when out comes Alexander Rusev. Not Rusev. Not Rusev. Alexander Rusev. Alexander Rusev is also in like jungle-ish attire as he comes out with this weird, like, I don't even know what you describe it as. Like, it's like this thing wrapped around his waist.
It reminds me of what Jungle Boy used to wear.
Yeah, a little. Oh, no, he does. I'm sorry. He doesn't have it. He does in his matches, but he does not have it on this night.
I was about to say, he does, like, I call it the Colgate kind of pattern because of the flag, yeah. But no, I know he wears a little bit later, yeah.
I was going to say, I remember Rusev wearing that in his matches, but this was not a match. This was him just making his presence known. And he destroys both Tyler Breeze and Xavier Woods. There is no match. I do think it's funny, though, that on the first NXT TakeOver, or the first NXT special, we do get Xavier Woods and Breeze about to have a match. Considering how close of friends they were, how tight they still are today, how they're the backbone of Up, Up, Down, Down. It's nice to see them both having, hoping to have a spot here on this show. Unfortunately, it does not happen because Rusev absolutely destroys them. A lot more of destruction of Xavier Woods than Tyler Breeze. So Tyler got out a little bit easy. But then Rusev applies the accolade, and Xavier Woods taps, but nothing happens because there's not a match. but it's nice to see these three guys. You know, oh, we forgot to do the fun thing. Paige is now Saraya in AEW. She's a former AEW Women's Champion. She has just apparently broken up with Ruby Riott, who is the former Ruby Soho, who's the former Ruby Riott from WWE. I know that happened on last week's show, I believe, if I remember correctly. She led that WWE stable of girls between her, Toni Storm, and Ruby. When she got to AEW, she had the big moment. She was going to have the big moment in All In, but unfortunately wasn't able to have that moment there.
You mean Saraya?
Yeah, Saraya. She didn't have the big moment at. Oh no, she did.
She won the title with her family. Yeah.
Okay, she did have the bat. I was trying to think. I'm thinking back. I'm like, I know one of the two of them didn't, and I couldn't remember if it was Jamie or if it was her that didn't have the moment, because it was supposed to be her versus Jamie.
And they kept adding people and people and people.
Well, because Jamie got hurt.
Yeah, and then adding to that as well, we also have now that she has the movie Fighting With My Family, going back to her roots, giving us the background on her, when Selena Vega is the one that plays AJ Lee in that movie, and Florence Pugh, of all people, ends up being Paige. It's the most random thing when you think about it now. Yeah, I remember going to the movie screening and just like thinking about it now. Just like, this is so crazy. Going back to her story, a little bit of the NXT, they kind of show some kind of similar girls in that NXT era, to her winning the Divas Championship, and the movie was made by none other than The Rock.
Yeah, $5 Studios did definitely produce that. Tenille is unfortunately released from WWE. She is still planning, and I believe about to be married to Riddick Moss. I know she's planning a bunch of stuff, and I really wish that they would have given her 6 more months and let her be in the Elimination Chamber match. And I think they could have. I think she would have happily and quietly been released after the Elimination Chamber and just had that moment to wrestle in front of a big crowd. Even if she loses in that Elimination Chamber, I think it would have been special to have had her in that match in Australia. Because she literally, and again, it breaks my heart to talk about this. She literally posted that day. That's the day they announced they were going to Perth, Australia. And she posts, "Oh my God, I'm so excited. We're going to Perth." And then within an hour, the next tweet is, "Oh, never mind." And she tweets that she's been released.
Yeah, this one broke my heart because the first time she got released, at the time she went to TNA for quite a bit, and she was like, "Oh, I'm Tenille Dashwood." I was like, "Oh, this is gonna get me some getting used to calling her Tenille instead of Emma." But I feel like this is why I hate that TNA ended up losing so many girls in a row, because she was built like such a badass in TNA, like built so well with Madison being a tag team champion. She was featured, so well, and all of a sudden she's gone because she's going back to WWE, only to go to WWE for nothing to happen and then to get released again. So it's like, I wish she would have just stayed in Impact. Like that would have been the moment right there and then, because I feel like they would have done better with her there. Yeah, like you said, it's bittersweet in that sense of like, I was thinking, this, she along with like Paige are the people that like, built up that time and started to build this like era for the women to get the Royal Rumble and the Chamber and all these matches. And then thinking about it later, her and Paige ended up not being a part of those like matches that WWE ended up doing for the women. Like think about like Paige celebrating, that's a first women's Rumble, but then that's when her neck injury happened, so she doesn't participate, and then she's gone from WWE, so she doesn't get to be a part of the match. And then Emma, I think she only did maybe 1 or 2 appearances in the whole Rumble that we had so far. So it makes me think of like, it's incredibly like sad when you think about it later, of like these girls starting this era of an NXT, building up NXT in such a way so people know what NXT is. Only when they go to the main roster, they don't get to participate in any of the first for the women. It's just incredible to think about later.
I've got a much, much more incredible stat when we get to the end of the night. We then get a video package profiling Bo Dallas and the Bo-Leavers. If you just Bo-Leave. I used to say Bo-Leave. I used to be a Bo fan. I used to be a Bo-Leaver. I believed in Bo. I bit hard for it. He was such a fun heel. Oh, he was so great. Like, he failed on the main roster, but I understood why he failed on the main roster. Like, this is a gimmick that works in NXT, but it doesn't work on the main roster. Like with the Ascension, it seemed odd that they failed. But with Bo Dallas, it was understandable. Like this was never going to be a gimmick that would get him over for a long period of time. And they never really developed anything beyond that. Part of the B team, that was great. But at the end of the day, there wasn't much for him, and he just didn't have the it factor that his brother had. Rest in peace, Bray. But he didn't have that it factor that Bray had. He's very creative, and as we're seeing online right now, he's incredibly creative and doing some wonderful things. But he was always kind of in the shadow of his dad, in the shadow of his brother. Mm-hmm. And they didn't find anything for him that made sense for him. But this gimmick is fantastic. We then see a couple more legends in the crowd. I know it is Larry Zbyszko, and I can't remember the other legend.
If I read it correctly, Steve Kern. Yeah,
it could be Steve Kern. I remember Larry Zbyszko as the announcer on Monday Nitro. He was also part of the AWA. I was a big fan of his in the AWA with Nick Bockwinkel. But that's back in the Papa Smokes time, so we're going to leave that time machine for a little while. And then we get the video package for the NXT ladder match, the first ever ladder match in NXT. And out comes the Heartbreak Kid, Shawn Michaels.
To be honest, I forwarded this whole thing because I was just done with it.
Oh no! He talked forever, and it's pure gold.
It took like 10 minutes for him to get to his point. Like, no lie, 10 minutes. Look at the timer.
I know. He gets winded doing his whole like ring thing. They start chanting one more match. He's like, how can I do one more match? I can barely breathe just doing my entrance. You can tell he's not working out. You can tell he's not really doing anything. This is the point where Triple H just first brought him back because after his wrestling career had ended, he'd gone back to be with the kids. He's trying to sell his DVD so he can get his kids' college fund going. Like, there's some really great gems in this, but it's a bunch of nothing. But it's fine.
It takes too long.
But it's fine because it's Shawn and he's great and I adore him. And he has in his hands one of, and I know I'm saying hot take and I'm going to say it all the time. This is the greatest in NXT championship that has ever lived. This NXT championship is the epitome of when I think of NXT, this is the title I think of. It is the original NXT championship. I'm just getting a picture of it. Give me a second.
Yeah, but this was one of those moments that it took definitely too long for me. And I was want to take notes and I was like, damn it. And I was like, I went through the whole like timeline up until like a moment he was done. I was like, thank God he's done.
Look at this. Though. Look at this piece of beauty right here. Like, this is a take off of the original X Division title. Like, this is the next step from being the X Division title. Because you remember how small the X was on the X Division title, but it had that same, like, protruding version. I love this because it's a classic world championship design. It's a straight lace belt with square, what do they call them? The little cylinders in here.
Yeah,
the side plates, that's the word for side plates.
Yeah,
the square side plates are just fantastic on this. I adore this championship. I think it's great. They raise the belt up and the ladder match begins. Adrian Neville, the man who gravity forgot, Vince's favorite Mighty Mouse. And Bo Dallas, the leader of the Believers. Bo Dallas had a 200-plus day reign as NXT championship, I believe, at this point.
Yeah.
This match kind of underdelivers for me. Back then, I thought it was really, really good. Watching it back, it kind of underdelivers. It's a little light.
Yeah, I to be honest, it's like I liked Bo at that time, especially. I kept saying believe everywhere, and I had to explain to my dad what I was saying believe. And I like now my family says believe. Now, even randomly, like to this day, my family says believe instead of believe because of him. And I like the touches with his character because if you see his trunks, so like the little font to it, it's like the Disney kind of font. Obviously, being Orlando, it goes back to that as well. So you know how well he ties everything up. And that moment I was like, yeah, this is amazing. It's a ladder match. It's the first time. So they're giving you like a first just to like open up with the network and give you something a little bit different. But there were moments like I felt like it was so slow, especially for a Neville match. And that's the part that I feel like that's where it lost me in, because I'm so used to like Neville, especially for me, it's one of those people like bam, 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 let's go. And I feel like I didn't see that here. There was just like little moments like he did a DDT as he's using the ladder to like catapult himself for the DDT. And I was like, oh, that looks great. And to me, one of my favorite parts is like when he's on the outside and Bo's trying to make his way in, going up the ladder, and then Neville just literally jumps from the top rope to on top of Bo, and then ends up climbing faster than he does. And the way he did, I was like, that was just amazing to watch. But it just felt like a slower pace type of match in that aspect for a Neville match. I was really surprised. I don't remember it being this way at all, and that's the reason why I was like, dang it, I thought this was better than what it was. But I like seeing. I even forgot that Neville was champion, to be honest. But like, it's great to think of like Neville being champion. Obviously, the first one being Rollins, and then we had Big E, and then we had Bo, and now him being the fourth one. So I like that he's in that lineup, especially being one of the first type of people to be NXT champion. And then I like how in the end we get John Cena randomly in the audience. I was unexpected. I forgot that happened. And all of a sudden I'm like, huh, okay. I like how he wasn't sitting there like all the rest of the people were. He just literally in the crowd, but they keep panning to him. And then we see SoCal Val to his left. And then we have, I forget, Mika, Mika is, I think how you say her name, Rotunda. She's Bray and Bo's sister. Yeah, she's on the kind of like on the right angle of Cena. And I was like, this is such a way to like end the match of like show his sister on the side, where obviously they don't even say that's his sister, and then SoCal Val to his left. I was like, that felt kind of random. But again, it just makes me think back of like the times that I was there for at Full Sail. Because I know later on, like I this is the first time I will get to watch like the Sasha Banks Bailey Iron Woman match on demand, to put it like that. Because I was there for it, so I never saw it on demand. And I think about that, like little things like that. I was there for like Balor's debut, so things like I didn't watch on demand, I get to watch them now. It's gonna feel so surreal to think about.
So yes, you can see John Cena directly behind John Cena. This younger woman. In right behind John Cena's head is Miko Rotunda. Two people over, the lovely, wonderful face of SoCal Val. Just a fantastic woman, fantastic in the wrestling space. Her time in TNA will always outshine everything else. But a lot of her friends are here tonight, so that's why she's here. I think she even spent a little bit of time at NXT at one point or another.
I don't remember if she was a ring announcer, but I know she was around that kind of like area when I saw her. And that's when I was like,
yeah, I think she was doing something backstage, or like she was some kind of a personality for NXT, I believe, in the early days. But yeah, I thought that this match is good. It's not bad by any stretch of the imagination, but it is a bit lackluster, which again is a bit of a surprise. It's a bit of a surprise that this is a bit of a lackluster match. But it's a good ladder match. It's not great, but it's good. I think the finish is interesting, with Bo rolling to the outside by accident, thinking about just a normal match, and that being what costs him, where he can't get back into the ring. Of course, to continue the thing that we've been doing all night, where are they now? Adrian Neville is now the Bastard Pac. He's located in All Elite Wrestling, sometimes, maybe, kind of, sort of. I believe he might still be part of Death Triangle if Death Triangle exists.
Yeah, he'll probably be returning soon from injury, at least. So
hopefully, maybe someday he'll return to WWE, because I feel like he might fit in now with that character and something like that. I think that there might be a spot with him with Triple H. Because remember, as we start talking about some of these talents, we're now going to start talking about if they flounder, if they have a hard time in NXT, in AEW. Some of these talents are going to be ones that Triple H had an eye on. These are going to be guys that Triple H had an eye for and was thinking could be future stars. So don't put it past some of these guys to pop back up in the near future. As contracts for AEW start expiring, there's a chance we might see some of these guys. Bo Dallas, as we know, has had a bit of a terrible time. After being released from WWE, he went ahead and got his real estate license. I believe he's still dating, if not, or was at some point dating Liv Morgan. Not longer dating Liv Morgan. He did at one point. Yes, he did. Hold on. I have to do research now.
I know that was a rumor online about that, but the best way I can describe it is like I think they were kind of working together in the real estate where they were in. But yeah.
Okay, he's Sarah Bachman. Oh my. Yeah, sorry, Liv. You don't step up to Bo Dallas's wife. Good God. Hold on. Sorry, I don't normally do this, but we're gonna.
No, I remember there was rumors about that happening online.
I believe in Bo. I mean, look. I believe in Bo. I mean, look at this.
Did they have a date though when they got married?
Yeah, hold on. I'll get back to it in 2 seconds. Like, all right, hold on. Back.
She kind of reminds me a little bit like Camille.
Yeah, she looks a little bit like Camille. She's from Sweden.
Interesting.
No, I'm sorry. They are no longer married. Well, no, they're no longer married. She was married to Bo Dallas from 2014 to 2019.
Okay.
Oh, Bo, you screwed up. She's now with a fitness instructor, Mikey Olivia, that she married him. She married him in 2019. Oh, she didn't take long to get back off the market. Oh my. Anyways, I've sidetracked on the road to Sarah Bachman, and I got to get back on track here. Thank you all for joining us on this wonderful row. What would you give NXT Arrival as a score?
Ooh, I would be stuck between like an A- and just like regular kind of B. Yeah, because I feel like the main event, like I wish it would have been better in that aspect. I love the Ascension, but again, I would have asked for the Ascension, which is too cool of all matches, to be honest. Yeah, I think that's it. I wish I would have seen Xavier versus Tyler Breeze in the pay-per-view in itself. Yeah, I think those were the moments I'm like, eh. And I wish HBK would have taken less time to get to his point.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think it's a B show. It's not the greatest show in the world. It had its moments. We're going to see an interesting show next time. I don't want to say next week. This show is hoping to be once or twice a month. I'm hoping for twice. I think it'd be a good thing to do every couple of weeks because it's not a lot of research that goes into this. We watch one show. These shows are typically 2.5 hours. I feel like we can do these on a fairly regular basis. No matter how busy we are, I think we can do these fairly regularly. We're going to try to do as many of them live as we can, but if we need to, we will record some of these. May 29th, 2014 is going to be the next show that we talk about. NXT Takeover. The official start of takeovers. And I'm just going to give you a thing here. We will have been talking about the finalizing of the NXT Women's Championship coming into this next show. It will be something that takes on from here to the next show.
Where versus Charlotte.
Oh no. Well, yes, that's the finals. But I want to go through the whole thing. So in the first round, as a substitute, Sasha Banks defeats Bayley in 3 minutes and 58 seconds. Sasha wasn't even in the tournament. She was a substitute. Layla is defeated in 3 minutes and 30 seconds by Natalya, who was a substitute in the tournament. Alexa Bliss pins Alicia Fox in 3 minutes and 8 seconds. By the way, this is Pixie Princess Alexa Bliss.
Yep. Mrs. Tinkerbell.
Yes, Miss Tinkerbell. And then Charlotte defeated Emma in 3 minutes and 50 seconds. In the second round, Natalya defeats Sasha Banks in 4 minutes and 6 seconds. And Alexa Bliss defeats... Oh, I'm sorry. The sub doesn't mean a substitute. The sub means submission. It's the way of victory. Because I'm just looking at the people who all say sub, and I'm like, oh, sub. Oh, it's submission. Sasha Banks with the bank statement. Natalya with the sharpshooter. That makes more sense. Yeah, nowhere else in the world are you going to see a match with Natalya and Sasha Banks that ends in 4 minutes and 6 seconds with Sasha Banks taking the L.
Wow.
And so it will be Charlotte versus Natalya. The other matches on this card will be Tyler Breeze versus Sami Zayn, the Ascension taking on El Local and Kalisto. And wait till you see who El Local is.
I feel like I'm trying to remember that.
Don't worry, I'll tell you next week. Adam Rose defeats Camacho, which means we're going to go back to our New Japan roots when we talk about Camacho, because Camacho will be very, very familiar to some of you who watch your New Japan Pro Wrestling. And of course, the main event will be Adrian Neville taking on Mr. Natalya, Tyson Kidd.
Aww.
And I call him Mr. Natalya because that's what the crowd was calling him.
Yeah, Natty's husband.
Yeah. I will say, though, for once the women get time. The women's match in this show will get 16 minutes and 49 seconds, which I believe is more than the entire rest of the tournament.
I remember, oh my God, I had to look it up on Wikipedia. I know who it is.
Yeah, I do too. I know exactly who it is. Isn't that funny? Isn't that funny? No. Anyways, we'll see y'all next time. Thank you for watching, and we'll be here hopefully, next week. Talk to you later. Goodbye.
I'm never gonna look back, 'cause damn, I was built to last. You move slow and I move fast, and that's facts. Only I can make a change. Slowly take a step today.